All right, well, we are back in the shop today working on the Turbo LS street truck. So this thing has been about 90% done for a while now. And a lot of times vehicles get to 90%, they're not good enough. You don't drive them that often. There's been a few things keeping us from driving this thing hard, as in taking it to the track and seeing what kind of times it can do, as well as just driving it around on a regular basis. So the first thing that we have tackled is the AC system. So while I was out of town, Raldo and Jose put a whole new AC system in this thing. So basically with the turbo setup, you can't, the factory receiver dryer, which is here, the line points basically right at the turbo. So that isn't gonna work. So got a different receiver dryer, different lines. I never put the condenser back in, so it's now got a condenser. New compressor. So basically everything in the AC system has been changed, even the idler, the new belt, compressor, lines, condenser, dryer, and it's ready to go. And that, I am more excited about this than the performance upgrades we're going to be doing once we finish this up. But you know, AC, man, we live in Florida just in time for it to get cool. No, but yeah, so basically we're at the moment of truth time. We're going to vacuum down the system, make sure it holds a vacuum. If it does, we'll fill it with Freon. Hopefully it works. I don't even know. I can't remember what I did with, I think it's still set up with the stock ECU to control the AC. So I may have to do some tuning in the Holly to get it to bump the idle up. There's things we're going to have to figure out here. But the hard parts are in. How was it?
It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah?
Yeah. Fell right in. I was concerned about the condenser.
Yeah, I was worried about that.
I was going to fit,
Yeah.
but it fell right in.
I was definitely worried about that because we've got obviously a big intercooler up here. Which is why I didn't put the condenser back in initially. And then the intercooler pipes, you know, there's just enough room to squeeze a 3-inch. You can see how to do this pie cut pipe to fit. And then same thing kind of on this side. So yeah, I guess we'll vacuum it down. And then if it does hold, which is always you know, you're supposed to let it sit for, I don't know how long, like 2 hours. If it holds for like 10 minutes, I'm good. A1, we're putting Freon in it. So all right, I guess there's nothing left to it but to do it. All right, guys, before we get too deep into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Upside. So Upside is an app that allows you to earn cash back on your day-to-day daily essentials. Things like dining, grocery stores, gas stations. That's a big one. As a car guy, we tend to spend a lot of money on gas. I feel like something always needs gas, and I am always at the gas station. I go there all the time. And to be able to earn cash back on something that I absolutely have to buy anyway, something that makes literally my world go round, to me is so amazing. Not to mention with Upside, it's simple, straightforward, real cash back. There's no convoluted points or rewards, or you gotta use it here, you can't use it there. It's just simple, straightforward cash back. You're literally just earning cash back. And I love that. No convolution, no nonsense. It's so easy to keep track of in comparison. I love it. It's such a win-win. And I mean, top earners on Upside are earning as much as $300 cash back per month. So if you're interested in seeing how much you could earn, click the link down in the description to download Upside and then use the code Taylor to get an extra 25 cents off for every gallon on your first tank of gas. Or you can just scan the QR code here to claim that offer, just to make it simple. So that being said, huge thank you to Upside for sponsoring today's video. We need to get back to work because I'm real excited about this one. This is going to be a big, massive difference. And like that, yeah, I've just been eager to do this and I'm ready to get into it. So let's do it. So to recap on what we had to do to get to this point of having a complete AC system ready to vacuum and charge, basically it required all new everything. All new condenser, receiver dryer, lines, compressor. Some of this stuff we just decided to replace while we were here, but most of it has to change to make it fit in a Turbo LS Silverado setup like this. The problem is we built this truck so long ago, we don't remember why we did or didn't do certain things. So going into this, there was a lot of unknowns on what would and wouldn't fit. You know, did I mount the front mount intercooler with enough room for the AC condenser? You know, we didn't have the luxury of having this stuff on hand when we built the truck. So it's, you know, one of those things. We'll know when we get there. So fortunately, Raldo and Jose were able to get the receiver dryer on and things are looking pretty good. So you can see the difference in the two compressors. The biggest thing is the old style compressor. On top of being large and bulky, the lines meet, they join, and then it's this big bulky line setup that hits the turbo manifold. The new compressor uses 2 separate lines, which is also easier to route around all of the hot stuff, which you have a lot of with a turbo setup. For example, the 4-inch pie cut downpipe that I built it around the old receiver dryer, and I don't even think I had the old lines in there. So this is definitely a big gamble on whether this is going to fit, but fortunately it all fit. They did a great job putting it all together, getting it all put on and set up. So now it's really just a matter of seeing if it all works, which step 1 of that process is to hook up the lines and vacuum down the system. This will basically tell us, first we need to suck all the air and moisture out of there, but also it'll tell us if we have a good seal on the system. If we're leaking, we'd like to find that out now so we don't waste putting Freon in it and just have it leak right out.
Why did it make the noises, dude?
Yeah, they always sound like they're gonna blow up. But we got good vacuum, like having a race truck with air conditioning.
Little thing.
All right, turn her on. So if I'm looking straight at it, we're right at 25. All right, this thing's holding vacuum. I need to make sure this can's gonna work. Oh, and I need to purge the line.
I was gonna say, are we gonna purge it? Do you think it'll come out like?
No, I just do this, because then we'd still be putting air in the system. Oh, nice, it worked. Like I said, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Valves are closed.
So generally when you're putting Freon in, you can basically push some in, and that'll generally be enough to get the compressor to cycle on, and then it'll have to be on for it to take the rest in. But even after putting what felt like a decent bit in, we got to that point where it wasn't taking anymore and the compressor wasn't clicking on. So now we're on to problem number 2. At least, it vacuumed down. Because that should be enough Freon. So now it's time to move into the diag, and this is kind of made extra complicated by the dual ECU setup that I mentioned. Having the Holley run the engine, the stock ECU run things like the cruise control and the AC. It's not as straightforward, One problem could not be a problem for us, or vice versa. We could have a problem, something has to work a certain way. So basically, it's always smart to start with the basics. So went to the relay, double-checked by swapping it. It was working, confirmed the relay wasn't the problem. And then we could check all the terminals at the relay to see if it was getting signal, if it was getting power. And we were able to power out to the compressor clutch and make sure the compressor clutch actuated. That way we know we didn't get a dud compressor, and then kind of work from there. So for whatever reason, it's not telling the thing to turn on. All right, well, it took a little bit of diagnostics, or maybe, I guess, a lot of bit of diagnostics, but that's usually how it goes, and it definitely was expected with this 2 ECU setup we got going on here, but I think we figured it out. I have a theory, won't know for sure, but the signs are pointing to yes. We kind of have 2 problems. So we confirmed that the hard parts work. I sent power from the relay spot to the compressor clutch, got it to turn on, suck in Freon. It was blowing cold out of the vents. So I think the hard parts are all good, which is good because that's the hard part, no pun intended. It's just on the electrical side, and again, I think we've narrowed that down. So basically, the stock ECU normally, when it would turn the compressor on, would also bump the engine RPM up. The problem is, the ECU thinks it's controlling the engine, but it's not. The Holley is in complete control of the engine. It's like they're like a couple, that are just not being truthful with each other. So my theory is that when the stock ECU turns the compressor on, the RPM doesn't go up. It thinks there's a problem because it's like, hey, I'm trying to bump the RPM up. It's not bumping up. There must be something wrong. So to confirm that, I bumped the idle up, manually, just cracked the throttle body open, held it at a higher RPM, and the compressor came on, stayed on, didn't click off. So I think I'm pretty confident in that diagnosis. So to resolve that, basically we just need to run an input to the Holley so it knows when the compressor turns on and have it bump the idle up when that happens, which should then keep the ECU happy and perpetuate the lie that it's running the show when it's not. Determine where I want to pull from to send that signal to the ECU, wire it into the ECU, program it, do a little tuning. Hopefully we should be good there. The other problem is a long-term problem. We've got a temp solution. So you have a low pressure switch and a high pressure switch. The low gets too low, turns the compressor off. The high gets too high, same thing, turns the compressor off. The problem is our high pressure switch is different. Since we went to the newer style compressor and line, it uses a high pressure sensor, which reads the actual pressure, whereas ours is set up to use a switch, which is just on or off. Either pressure's too high or it's not, and that switch, as you can see here, is built into the back of the compressor. So short term, we just bypassed it. We'll need to find a high pressure switch that'll thread on to the port that this threads onto, which I don't think should be too hard. It's a pretty standard AC port. And that's just a 2-wire switch. Crimp on a plug, hook that up, and we should be good, all proper. But for now, it's bypassed. It shouldn't be a problem, and will let us make sure we got everything else sorted, and then we can do that later. So that's the plan. Yep, let's get to work. So to tell the Holley when the compressor is turning on, we need either a power or a ground that only does one of those two things when the compressor is turned on. So the easiest option is just the wire that goes to lock up the compressor clutch. And fortunately, I was able to trace it back, and it ends up going right by where the Holley and the Holley harness is. So this should be pretty easy. Yeah. Boom. Found it. Makes our life simple. Just need to get some wires, some crimps, all the things. So the Terminator setup I have has basically a few inputs and a few outputs already pre-wired. And then I took those and wired them to one big connector when I was wiring up my different inputs, like my flex fuel sensor and things like that. But then that way, now, whenever I have to add a new input, I just got to wire one pin to the backside of one half of that connector, and I'm done. I don't have to do any other crimp in, make a connector, nothing. So I was really glad I did that. Present day me was very grateful for past me's forethought in making future me's life easier, basically. All right, our wire's in. Obviously, we need to clean that up a little bit, but it's in there. So we can try this out. So now that we have our wire input to the Holley, we basically just need to tell it what to do with that. So basically what we're doing is just telling it, hey, when this has power, which means the AC compressor clutch is on, I need you to bump the idle up by a given amount. And then we can get even crazier and change that based on other factors, but for now we're gonna keep it simple, just idle up. All right, well, got that wired up. Got it programmed to bump the idle up, and we'll see. We'll see A, if that's the right amount, B, if it works. Gotta open the door though. So long ago, and I haven't used it. About to try it out. See what we can get down to. Water temp's holding steady. Yeah, I mean, that's freaking working, dude. We're right in that blue zone, 45. It feels amazing. Every bit as good as you would hope it would be. Yeah, that's icy, dude. Icy. So weird. It's so weird to drive this thing with the windows up. Ice cold AC. That's crazy. Nothing seems to be effective, just letting the AC rip. I mean, so far so good. This thing's dialed. Oh, it's so cold in here. All right, the real world test. Going to the parts store to get a part for this thing. This is sick. Driving around, music, AC, windows up. You can barely hear the truck when you're just cruising around because the exhaust is quiet enough. This is like my goal for the truck when building it and wanting to build it. It's like it's finally reaching its final form. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah. Oh, first real drive with the AC and everything, and I gotta say, I am impressed. How do you feel? Dude, it's weird. Driving this thing now, knowing it's a drag truck, but it not feeling like one. Oh, it's pretty cool. All right, we gotta get a pressure switch. Old toothless right now without the front lip. Man, I've missed this truck. I used to daily this thing and tow rig. All right, well, the plug was what I expected, which is just a standard GM 2-pin. Probably just about every race car, or at least drift car, has this. It's the same as a GM intake air temp sensor. So anyway, I had that, extended the leads, boom. So we needed to extend it to reach the new spot because before it went here, now it's gonna go up there. We're gonna plug this in. Sensor is in. I probably won't be able to see it. Oh, maybe you can. There. So now we just need to hook this up, and if the AC works, then we know it works. If it doesn't work, we know it doesn't work. All right, well, it didn't work, but the reason determined. This is a tricky thing. We're trying to find a part that I don't even know what it exists on, because most of the trucks of this generation, GM, would have it in the compressor. So, you know, we tried to find a cross-reference part number that was available. They didn't have to order. The problem is, even though this part number cross-references, hold on. We need a normally closed sensor. This is normally open. So what that means is this one, there's no connection between these two wires or these two pins until it hits the high pressure and then it makes connection. We need the opposite. We need it to be making connection, and then when it gets too high, break the connection. So since it's not that, right now the connection is broken, i.e. it won't turn on. Moral of the story. So we need this exact thing, just normally closed, which I found, the AC Delco one, and it's ordered. So for now, put the little wire back in there because I want to drive this thing around some more because I'm just so happy to have it working with AC. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to start on the making this thing actually go fast part. But you know, AC is probably more important for sure. So anyway, pick this back up tomorrow. Hopefully that sensor will be here soon. Either way, at least we know what it is. It'll work. I'm confident. We got the plug already swapped, so we're in good shape. So even though the AC was working great and it was ice cold, I still couldn't help but want to get it perfect. You know, it seemed like it was a touch low on Freon. It was still cycling, and it was low, so put a little bit more in it. Got the bed cleaned out so we could take this thing for a day test drive and see what it can really do. This thing definitely needs a bath.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so weird to be able to drive this thing with the windows up.
Yeah, no.
Like the only other time we've been able to do that is when it was cold enough to run the heat, you know? And in the last several years, driving this thing with the windows up, you're like, oh, it's actually pretty quiet in here. Like you said, you can't hardly tell it's even turbo. Unless you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. I'm like, man, I wish I would have done this in summer. I would have been driving this thing around for the past few months.
Yeah.
But one of those things, you know?
Yeah.
That's a wrap on the AC system, besides throwing that sensor in, which is, again, piece of cake. But it is the OEM AC Delco one.
Good stuff.
OEM quality parts.
Yep. Only the best.
So now we need to throw it back on the lift, start working on the performance side of things.
Boom.
Since we're about to get into the more major and involved projects, we wanted to switch this thing to the main lift side by the toolbox to make our lives a little easier.
box.
All out of there.
Grab the gravel rod.
Hold on, dude. Chill. All right, so what we have here for the first part of the performance side upgrades is traction bars, or, you know, the name brand name is Caltrax bars. Basically, these prevent our leaf springs from wanting to do the old S curve. Basically, as the ring gear tries to climb, it can kind of pretzel the leaf spring, and then you get crazy wheel hop and all sorts of things. So these should allow us to plant the rear axle better while retaining the leaf spring setup. There's some cars going really, really fast with that same basic principle, like leaf springs, Caltrax bars. It's all a lot simpler than switching it to 4-link. This should allow us to take this thing to the drag strip and not worry about the wheel hop just obliterating everything on the truck. So if you've never done any drag racing, wheel hop is bad. That is like literally how you destroy my Miata. It wheel hopped. Granted, it had a worn out diff bushing, but it bounced the diff, shattered the diff case, broke 2 axles, destroyed it just with a little bit of wheel hop. So I do not want to go down that road again with this. As Josue and me got all the parts laid out, it was looking like it was going to be a pretty bolt-on affair, which we always joke about how nothing's ever really bolt-on. And yep, same is true with this. So to make the bar fit, we've basically got to cut the helper spring out because it would be in the way of the bar doing its thing. So we got to cut through all this very, very thick leaf spring, which leaf spring being high carbon steel, it is very sparky. I am not a huge fan of cutting things with the grinder these days. Now that I've got a bandsaw and this other stuff, I do try to avoid it like the plague. But I will say, I mean, it is an effective way to cut through just about anything. So once we had the helper springs cut out of the way, we could start installing the bolt-on aspect of it. So really pretty straightforward because we basically just got to remove this lower plate at the bottom that holds the leaf spring packed together from the drop kit, and then bolt on the new one, which has our holes and mounting points for the traction bars. So that part was about as easy as it gets, especially because I did the lowering kit not that long ago, so none of our U-bolts are all rusty and seized. You know, the nuts came off easy, they went on easy. So now it's just a matter of putting the front portion on. Now, this requires getting it in a very specific spot to make sure, you know, all of our articulation is good. We can adjust the bar to reach all of the different bar angle settings. So it's a very important spot that we've got to put it in. Make sure we measure twice, drill once, because 2 of the bolts require us drilling through the leaf spring, which leaf springs are pretty thick, so it's going to be a little bit of a struggle to drill these 2 bolts, but they're absolutely crucial for keeping these things in place. It says you can get away with 1, but you know, we might as well, if we're going to suffer and drill through this leaf spring, we might as well drill 2. So it took a little bit of time, more than usual, but we managed to get through it and get that fully bolted in and tightened down. And then it's just a matter of basically getting them set in place, which we have to get this thing under its own weight to final set them, but we can get them close, get everything snugged up, and see how the finished package looks. And I gotta say, it looks pretty cool. All right, traction bars fully installed. Pretty easy process, aside from having to drill through the leaf spring here, man. I don't know if the spring is hardened in the middle or something, but you just get the spots where the drill bit just wouldn't bite. It's one thing to just have to drill through something, but with good bits like we have, you know, you're at least making progress. So I don't know, that was a struggle. But other than that, piece of cake, you know. Bars are on, we've got them tightened down, we've got them at the default setting. Everything's looking pretty good. I'm really curious to see how this does. I mean, the biggest benefit and place that this is needed is at the racetrack, because we're gonna have traction, and the traction will cause the leaf spring wrap, which will cause wheel hop, which will break things. On the street, though, I'm wondering if it might be able to play around with it, play with our bar angles. That's a big thing, and no prep. Everyone's always, well, drag racing in general, bar angles. We got bar angles now that we can change, but yeah, I'm hoping maybe we can get it to plant the tire a little harder on the launch, because this thing, it would stick after like the first 20 feet. that hit, no matter how soft we did it, it would knock the tire loose for just a second. You pedal it and then it would go. And it was pretty quick, all things considered. And now we can run it on higher boost because we have the full Deechworks fuel system and E85. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I've done a full pull or even a wide open throttle rip with it on E85. I don't think we've ever done a roll hit with it on the radials. You know, there's a lot of things we haven't done yet. So I'm excited. But we wanted to get this stuff done first. You know, taking our time, being patient. So anyway, we're going to put the wheels on, drop it on the stands, just make sure everything looks good with the angles and nothing's bound up. And then go from there. So let's get to it. So there's two major settings with these bars. There's the bar angle itself, which is going to be kind of like it would be on a 4-link, how hard it's going to hit the tire. And then also the preload, you know, basically how tight they are up against the leaf spring. So to set that, the vehicle has to be, you know, at ride height, under its own weight. So that's always the tricky thing about setting suspension stuff up. And we have the alignment stands. We should have grabbed them and used them. But basically we just set them loose and then ran them up tight and then put a tiny bit of preload on them because that's what we're going to want for starters for the bad surface. And then we'll see how it works. Like I know a car is like dialed, but he just said if you can turn it on from the outside, and two, if I can like park it, walk away with it idling and not even question it. Those are my two. Tires up so we can see what this thing does with the traction bars. You got them all set. Gotta put some heat in the motor. Definitely feels like it's hooking up some more. But again, I haven't done a ton of testing with it on E. What was my E percentage? 62. I don't know if I've even done like a full throttle hit whack with it on E. This thing's so crazy it hooks now. Oh, this thing's driving so good now, dude. So dialed, especially with the weather so nice, man. Can't beat it. Was tire pressure. So they were up at like 22. We're gonna dump them out a little bit. We definitely want lower pressure than that for trying to make this thing go on non-prep surface without even a burnout mark with glue to drive in. So then we're gonna go down to like kind of near the minimum for these, and then go see if we can find a closed course to do a better test. Still probably know, maybe we'll get off a little burnout, but I just kind of want to see how we can get it to go without all that prep work. 14 on the nose.
Boom.
See what this old girl can do. Ow. Did we make it up this thing before? I think so. Fun fact, before I even knew what drifting was, I did donuts in a 240 here. Because I got a 240, open diff, and did donuts there. I have no idea what I was doing. Because like I didn't get the 240 to drift, you know, I got it because I thought it was going to be fast. 10 out of 10 was not fast. It's so nice having a reasonably quiet exhaust. So this thing's kind of stealthy. I mean, it's still kind of loud, but it's like, you know, comparatively stealthy. After the hit. Let's do one right here. I'm gonna foot brake it this time, and I'm gonna data log it. Ready? That wasn't bad. No. Cause it's still snatching it on the hit, but like again, what do we? You know, it's not like. It'd be completely unrealistic to expect that we could launch any bit hard on a bare road with no prep. This is like worst case scenario testing. Wheeling. Random.
This is why we haven't been back here.
Yeah, right. Alright, well, successful test, I would say for sure. All of the temperatures stayed in check. Transmission temp cruised right back down. Not that it got out of check, but the fact that it's, you know, it should be able to do that. It should be able to warm up when we're thrashing it, doing 2 back-to-backs, whatever the case, and then cool back down. I definitely want to put a lower temp thermostat in it. Like, it's got the stock thermostat in it. It's a new one, but it's stock temp, you know. So it's just like, that's where it sits, like 198 to 200. I'm gonna let it idle and see what the transmission temp goes to. But everyone's happy. Alright, well, as you can maybe tell, I am just so pleased with this thing, man. I'm so happy. The AC, I'm just kicking myself for the fact that we didn't do it when we built the truck, because I knew we needed to order the parts, and I was just like, we'll do it later. It's nice out right now. But I knew deep down that meant it would be a while, because it meant taking things back apart. And so to have that working is like, it's just a game changer, you know? Again, wish I had it working this whole time. But the traction bars, man, finally, between that and the E85 and finally getting to play with it, I mean, we're just scratching the surface on what we're going to be able to do with this thing. You know, we need to take it back to the good spot with a lot of rubber down already. Use the glitter, you know, pour it, burn out. I need to tinker with the tune. Now that we have E85, it's auto set up, but got some things to do. There's a lot more capability in this thing. I want to take it to the track soon and see what we can do. I'd also really like to take the vet too, so we need to get on that. So anyway, that's that. It's at a good spot. We're gonna tinker with it. I like having something to tinker with and go make improvements. That's one of the things I like about getting into drag racing that's different than drifting is, you know, we can go out and try little things and find time and draggy it, you know. So I don't know. I'm loving it. Loving this truck. Such a good rig, man. Such a good setup. It's time to start making it look nice too. We're gonna get it repainted and need to get some street wheels for it and stuff. But for now, solid, man. Solid. All the projects, A1. So I am gonna go ahead and end it here. Yeah, we got a lot to do. So I'm gonna quit jibber jabbering. And just I want to say thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and can't wait to see you next time for the next episode. But for now, that's it. Goodbye.